This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll start with introductions. I'm Mary Kemmis, Chair. Next.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, I'm Maria Pinsetich, member.
And I'm Robert Strickland, and I live south of the charming seaside community of Warrington, due east of the charming seaside hamlet of Sunset Beach.
And Gail Henriksen, Community Development Director.
Wonderful. So hopefully everybody has had a chance. Oh, is there anybody that I can't see? Nope.
Lots of people.
Nope.
Okay, moving on. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review the meeting summaries that came in our packet. And just wanted to know if you had any questions, comments, changes, deletions.
I have a question.
Yes.
The question is there a minimum number of people that need to be on this or participating that do we need a quorum or anything like that? Or is it just whoever is able to attend is sufficient?
Yeah, whoever is able to be here is good. You're not making any votes or recommendations that are being passed on or binding, so you're good with just the three of you.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. So hearing no comments, I'll move on. It says here on the agenda that we have public comment and input. Was that something we need to do at this time?
Yep.
So one of the groups had asked that we have public input before we start discussion and after. And so I've just been putting it on everybody's committee agendas. Obviously, we have no public today, so.
Okay, that's good to know. I look forward to maybe somebody having something to say in the future. I think this might be an appropriate place to add this, and that is that we have received from the, I can never remember the initials, but the comments on the review of goal 1, 3, and 4. You can look at that on the county website. And also they are in Gail's emails attached at the bottom. So I would like to give everybody a heads up that I'd like you to look over those and be prepared if there's anything that you want to comment on the comments at the next meeting. Moving on, review of goal 5 worksheets. And hopefully you have it in front of you. And what I want to do is go through kind of page by page to see if you have anything that you want to comment about or talk about. So on page 1, I'm looking under Clatsop County goals and policies. And does anybody have anything that they want to talk about from goal 1 to policy 5?
Yes, down there under 3, it mentions reservoir sites. And oddly, that has been a contentious piece over the course of time, that anything that was about protecting aquifer, which I kind of lumped together with the idea of a reservoir site. Hello, Don.
Can I interrupt you for just a minute, Robert?
Yeah.
Are you talking on the state goals?
I am talking about the left-hand column, statewide planning goal guideline number 3.
Okay, please continue.
That historically it was as offensive a term as silver spot butterfly to mention anything about protecting the aquifer on Clatsop Plains. It was seen as a hateful thing to do regarding private property rights. It was seen as a, it was like there was a find and make sure it was not in any public process document. So I'm just pointing out that yes, we still have rainfall on Clatsop Plains. We still have an aquifer, but I'm warning that historically it has. I think most of the people are dead who used to be worried about this, but they were afraid that anything that mentioned protecting aquifer was going to stop them from their God-given rights to irritate coyote.
Okay, I'm not sure where you're going with this, so I need a little more clarification.
I was trying to inform you that we do have something akin to a reservoir that ostensibly we are supposed to be protecting, but I'm warning that anytime one does protect it, historically it has been viewed as an impingement upon what real estate developers imagine they might be able to do someday, were it
Okay.
not for the hateful planning process.
So help me out, Gail. Robert is talking about statewide planning goal guidelines. We really don't have control over those. What we're actually what we have some input on are the Clatsop County goals and policies. Is that correct? Or
It is correct, but not that I would ever presume to speak for Robert, but I think if I had to translate, he's either referring to the aquifer and that aquifer reserve area and the need in our comp plan to have policies to protect that aquifer reserve area, which is the drinking water source for Clatsop Plains. But it obviously is a very contentious political issue because it's highly sought after for development. Did I translate correctly?
It used to be. You are correct, and you speak far better than I do, which is why I rely on your diplomatic tongue. It was called the Citizens for Sensible Land Use, which you may properly assume was a Republican block land use planning geriatric committee. And I think everybody involved in that is dead. George Fraser was a very politically savvy whip, counting votes. And so I'm saying, yes, I think we still have an aquifer that any person who likes land use planning in a proactive, protective way, which only includes a minority of our compatriots, doesn't want stuff happening there that makes the water undrinkable, benzene and stuff. So yes, it has to do with development. So it was a very real thing that simply the word aquifer got purged from any regional problem solving that was done. Any highly thoughtful bottom up citizen involvement process wanted to stay clear of that topic. So I'm saying if we stay clear of it, I certainly understand that is now called balanced.
okay, so again, Gail, help me out on this. This is actually on the county. I'm a very logical kind of person. I have to kind of go in steps. That would come under water resources policies?
That would come under that. You may also want to discuss under watershed because watershed protection is just as important.
Okay.
It would also come somewhere on the war on terror, and the where the Department of Defense made sure we don't mess with their whatever they do at Camp Arlea.
So what recommended changes are you proposing then?
Oh, that we'd be very careful never to mention that we have any thought of protecting the aquifer.
Okay. I don't see the word aquifer anywhere on these pages.
Well,
Can you?
maybe reservoir. Maybe we should make sure we don't ever use any water protection, any drinking water protection. You know, so I was triggered by the word reservoir, which you know, made me think of aquifer. I hate to say. So if we kind of forget that we have 80 inches of rain that goes into a magnificent sand filter on Clatsop Plains, and if we ever want drinking water, kind of in combination with our new county strategic plan, that endless growth is a good thing. They might sometime want a fresh water source without having to get sponges to totally empty the Lewis and Clark River, because that brings up other points where we're supposed to maintain a nice flow in these streams. And I think that's somewhere on this same Clatsop County goals and policies.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you for bringing that up. So
Yeah.
if there's nothing else on that page, if we go on to the next page, which is starts out with for aggregate site to be determined and ends with policy 11. Does anybody have any comments on that?
I'd like to back up. That guideline 4, again on the statewide guidelines, talks about carrying capacity, which is also kind of a scary thought, that as citizens we're supposed to even consider the carrying capacity of our natural resources. You know, I think that's a very dangerous thought that we should try and squelch anytime we think of such matters, because as our facilitator for this, you know, the $75,000 Portland State facilitator says that growth is good. So we shouldn't think about the consequences of eternal growth.
Okay.
And
how does that?
And again, I would never presume to speak for Robert, but I believe there is a high level of facetiousness in his comments.
I'm sorry, Gail, you're breaking up. It's hard to hear you.
I said I would never presume to speak for Robert again, but I believe there's a high level of facetiousness in his comments. So I think that you need to factor that into your considerations. And correct me if I'm wrong.
I would hesitate to use facetiousness when the county, when the constituents have spoken so loudly in the May election.
Okay. Is there anything else on that you wanted to comment on?
Oh, absolutely not. I know better.
Okay. Then again, going back to the next page that starts on the Clatsop County goals, aggregate site for an aggregate site, and ends with policy 11. Any comments or questions on that?
Down there on the left side, under statewide planning goal implementation 2, it's talking about rate and type of growth. And as a wizened bottom-up citizen, I'm waiting for the top-down information to be handed to me from our great white fathers on the county commission.
Okay. Anybody else? I did have one question on policy 9, where it says shall allow existing operations to continue for 2 years without conforming to the performance standards. Gail, can you give us some background on why that 2-year time frame?
I do not know the answer to that, and that is a very good question, Mary. And I can do some research into that and then find that out for you. But
Wonderful.
I don't know the answer.
I don't know if it's the same page, but up top of one of these pages, it starts off number 5, stream flow and water levels should be protected and managed at a level adequate for fish, wildlife, pollution abatement, recreation, aesthetics, and agriculture.
Okay, Robert, that's great. That's the next page, and we will get to that in just a second. I wanted to finish up. Is there anything else on the page that we're currently discussing? Okay, moving on. What was your comment on stream flow and water levels, Robert?
That's at the top of the next page.
Yes,
Well, do we dare consider such things? You know, I understand the Lewis and Clark River is our water source for lots of stuff, and that there's kind of unlimited rights to it from the charming village of Warrington. And it is not for me to understand how these coherently fit together, but it's just a guideline, you know, and it will tell us when they. I think the mayor of the charming village of Warrington has shifted gears, noting that they can't always say yes, because historically they have always said yes to anyone who wanted a water hookup. And I think, you know, it wasn't just in August when they would suck mud that this would be a consideration, but I think this has been said within the last year from one of the leaders of the charming village of Warrington.
Yes, I think those are very important comments, and definitely a difficult subject.
But it can go on our list of things not to talk about.
No, it's certainly we can talk about it. It's just that I'm trying to stick with the Clatsop County goals that will come up later under the water management, I believe. Is there anything on the Clatsop County goals and policies that you wanted to comment on? Anybody? If not, let's move on to the next page, which starts change in or significantly increase the cost of, and ends with policy 1 of mineral and aggregate resources policies.
And how do I recognize what page that is?
Well, they're not numbered. I can only tell you that it starts, the first one, the first block says change in or significantly increase the cost of.
Okay.
And it's mineral and aggregate.
It's followed by policy 18.
Thank you, Gail.
You're welcome.
I see on the next page there are a couple of things where I have tick marks.
Okay, before we get to that, Robert, is there anything on the page that we're currently on? If not, then let's go ahead, Robert. Let's go to the next page. What did you have ticks on?
On the next one, I have a little question mark. Next, to policy 6, where staff has already noted that ORS 541-605 has been repealed or replaced, and they'll verify with Agami if there are some statutes that relate to this. You know, I again, with the depths of memory, gravel mining round river rock was always a wonderfully valuable asset that also wreaked havoc with spawning beds.
Mhm.
And I know spawning beds is kind of a lewd term, but I presume we're still protected from anyone taking a river rock from the bed of a stream in Clatsop County. But maybe as to why we can't do that needs to be updated with Dogami reference. As long as we're having references, maybe why can't we go strip the salmon reds, steelhead reds of pretty round river rock? Because it was a valuable mineral, far more valuable than crushed basalt.
So I'm not exactly sure where you're going with that.
With that'd be nice, since we know that the reference that is now guiding us doesn't exist, but we don't know what replaced it, if anything.
Okay.
I'm happy to patiently await our beloved staff responding to their own note that removal of material from bed or banks of a waterway. What statute deals with that?
Okay. And Gail, is that in process or is that coming soon?
It would be done when we do the rewrite of Goal 5. I have not personally reached out to Dogami yet or researched ORS to correct the citation.
And I concur with the staff question. 3 answers below that. Is this still something the city is considering, of a hydroelectric facility at Youngs River Falls?
Yes, and again, I've not reached out to Astoria, the city of Astoria, to confirm or deny that.
When you hear, I know it'll be an interesting report.
Is that something that you would answer in this format, or would that be something that you could direct us to something on the county website? Or city website, I'm sorry.
Are you speaking to our beloved leader?
I am to Gail.
So I had not anticipated that you would want a full update on the hydroelectric facility, so I apologize for my negligence in anticipating your thoughts.
Accepted.
But I can certainly reach out to the city of Astoria and prepare a full report for your next meeting.
Wonderful, thank you. Is there anything else on this page? Okay, moving forward to, it starts with the following requirements shall apply, and then there's A, B, C, D. And I think it's up on your screen.
And I presume wetland site 7 includes the Julia Hansen Reserve or something?
That's in Washington.
Yeah.
Ah.
Hey,
This is,
I'm sorry to chime in. I have to interrupt. This is Donna Bing. I had to take care of injury for my wife. She sustained yesterday, so I'm a little bit late. But we do have to address some concerns that my son and I had gone through. And if we're on the Julia or on the Driscoll Slew, the Chinook Nation does have a direct interest in that in regards to the white-tailed deer habitat.
okay.
We would be definitely opposed to anything that would jeopardize the habitat for an endangered species as the white-tailed deer there. We have a historical, how do you say, relationship with that species of deer.
Are
Is
they
there development?
showing up anywhere else in the county? The
Pardon me?
whitetails? Are the whitetails showing up anywhere else in the county?
No.
Mhm.
They're we know that in the Clascanine area, they've been through in that area, but have been routinely harvested along with the black-tailed deer and then not reported as such.
Thank you.
So is there proposed development along the Driscoll Slough?
But apparently, it says here, where's that? Wetlands. Driscoll Slough. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, I mean, apparently there is some kind of proposal for a bridge or other transportation access across the slough,
Okay.
and something about piling is preferred to filling. We just want to know why it's necessary to go into Driscoll Slough. Why do we need to go into wetland and develop it? What's the urgency of the county's need? Is there a life and limb at risk or property at risk, or what are these questions? We need some answers to these questions. Otherwise, leave the slough alone.
So are you proposing a change in the wording of this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're the number one, the following requirements shall apply to wetland site 7, which also contains white-tailed deer habitat. Well, and then all industrial development shall be located north of the railroad right-of-way. Well, deer don't have a direction that says, oh, it's north of the railroad, I guess we can't cross the railroad tracks. We know that's not true.
Mhm. Okay, and so do you have any?
I was under the impression that railroad is not feasible to even operate again. I don't.
Well,
Well,
correct.
wait a minute. Oh, it does. It does go to Wana.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Gail, but this is wording from when the comp plan was last done 20, 30 years ago?
40 years ago, yes.
Okay.
At this point, there are no proposed projects in that area.
Okay. But perhaps what I'm hearing is that we want to strengthen this wording to encourage the county to prohibit development in wetlands. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Well, we see no gain in reducing and eliminating more wetlands that we lose every day in America.
Okay.
At least in the wetland site 7, because I don't think there are 10 people in the county who have any idea what in God's name wetland site 7 is. So I think a prohibition.
We do. The Chinook do. We're very intimate with the Julia Wildlife area. That was a significant area for the Wakayakum people. That's our tribe there, and of course the Clascanine people too, which is also another tribe of the Chinook. They're intimate.
Thank you, Tunisia.
Thank you. Any other comments on any of the other statements on this page?
Yes.
Okay.
There is on natural resources policy area. There is a 1/4 acre site located on the portion of Onion Peak Design Natural and shall be reserved for a potential radio transmission facility. The siting and placement of such a facility shall minimize impacts on the area's natural qualities. Well, we want to know, is it necessary to have this installed? And the reason we ask that is because the Fish and Wildlife Department has, for many years, many seasons, dedicated this area for harvesting elk with bow and arrow. And if this transmission facility is absolutely necessary, we would not want it to be on that natural area. They could have to find someplace else outside of the natural area if they have to have this facility. But I don't understand that with what's going on at Tillamook Head. Why be redundant with Onion Peak, which is just to the south?
Okay, so your comment or question, recommended change is this necessary to be installed? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the necessity of it, since in close proximity is our radio towers at Tillamook Head.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Duly noted. Anything else on this page?
Yes, we have a question. On policy 4, natural resources or natural areas policy. The natural designation for Sugarloaf Mountain shall not affect the continued operating and maintenance of the radio transmitter facility located there. Is there a problem that we don't understand about this facility? I mean,
Again, this goes back to 1980, so I would need to go back and pull the files from the original 1980 and 79 comp plan if we still have them, to figure out what the discussion was that generated this particular policy. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I apologize.
Okay. So I'm sorry, what was your question again?
oh, mine?
Dibben? Yes.
Oh, the designation, the natural designation, is that interfering with the radio transmission facility that's presently installed there?
To the best of my knowledge, it has not interfered. No. I have not contacted the.
I mean, is there talk of expanding it?
There is talk of, we actually have a permit in to build a brand new tower there. Is it a brand new tower? Yes. Sorry, brand new tower is somewhere else. Sugarloaf is having an expansion, yes. Additional equipment added.
Okay.
So, but to answer your question about whether or not the designation has interfered with the operation and maintenance, I don't know, but I will see if I can find that.
Thank you.
We're on the same page?
Yes.
Water resources policy number 1. The county will cooperate and coordinate with state and federal agencies in assuring the maximum beneficial use of all water areas in the county. Would that also include the Skipanon River?
Are you asked? That would be a question for Gail.
Well, I would consider the river, yes, to be a water area in the county. And since the statement does include all water areas, if I were to read the statement, I would say yes. But again, to go back to the original 1979, 1980 intent, I would have to go back and research that.
Okay. The reason I ask that is that the 8th Street Dam in Warrenton, Oregon, which is blocking the Skipanon River's flow. Seems to be a very contentious situation there with certain minority residents, and that contentious attitude or whatever these residents are saying goes in conflict with the understanding of the Corps of Engineers and whatever other federal agencies are involved with, mitigating the loss of salmon and salmonid habitats. We don't understand why that's just being tabled in perpetuity, which should be addressed immediately so that the Skipanon can begin its healing process, restoring the salmon and chum runs that historically ran in that river. I mean, its flow is severely impacted, we understand, but it's still flowing and it still can sustain fish and wildlife. So, yep, the 8th Street Dam is definitely an opposal to the maximum beneficial use of all water areas in Clatsop County.
Okay, so just to clarify, a couple of items. The Skipanon Water District is actually in the process of dissolving its corporate entity, if you will, and I don't know what will become of it. I've not been included in those discussions. But the dam itself, which is inside the incorporated city limits of Warrenton, we cannot really address in our comprehensive plan because it is not it's outside of our jurisdiction.
Mm.
Okay.
So I need to clarify my previous statement that would say all water areas in the county. There are facilities, not necessarily water bodies, but facilities such as the 8th Street Dam that the county cannot control because they are not under our jurisdiction.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Anything else on this page?
The tributaries to Cullowhee Lake, which are on the south side of the lake, has anything been addressed to restore or rehabilitate the one of the main tributaries to the lake that used to contain coho and chum salmon? Has that been addressed? That was a historical harvesting site for the Clatsop Plains Chinook.
I'm trying to figure out the tributaries, I presume, are originate at a higher elevation than the lake level.
Right.
So yes, there is something that runs up onto industrial forest lands. I know that Tessa Scheller used to annually go up after the first freshet and try and see if coho had scampered up. It was a creek that could be reached via Lewis and Clark Road from the Seaside 101 junction. So I'm aware of that tributary that certainly had salmonids, and I know it doesn't take much of a creek for coho to scamper up when there's water flowing. Because I've seen it in just tiny little things next to the Susanna Lease apartments assisted living in Seaside, where you could actually see the coho eggs, even though it looks like it's not a creek, it's just where the water runs off. But when given a chance, the coho will do their darndest to go up and spawn. So I am not familiar as much as I'd like to be with the identified tributaries of Cullowhee Lake. I know there's the Cullowhee Creek, which kind of merges with what flows into the Neawanna estuary, down around McCormick Gardens Road. You can't tell which direction is up because it is such a gradual grade through Delmore Loop area. So yes, it's a tributary, but it also, you understand the water lane areas. I don't have anything more to add to that, but yes, it's an interesting topic. And any tributaries I'd like to see protected, because the coho don't ask much, but they'd like their efforts to be acknowledged.
Well, it's a big issue, I know that, but
I don't know.
historically, that was a salmonid resource for the Clatsop Plains inhabitants, the Clatsop Chinook people, and I know it's been degraded since development's come in there, and I probably am the last living Chinook to see spawning fish in the Skipanon area at the dam, the outflow dam at
Carnahan Park.
the outflow dam there at Cullowhee Lake.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the lake sustained coho or the lake area and its tributaries sustained wild coho and chum salmon. There is no reason not to explore the ability to restore, rehab those resources, and then reintroduce the fish that historically sustained the people of the Clatsop Chinook Nation.
The topic has been considered and needs to be considered more, that one could have a very simplified replacement to that Cullowhee Lake structure, so that simply running from the beach at Carnahan Park straight down to the Carnahan Ditch below the dam could be a natural grade, and the permitting process is the most expensive part of that.
Yeah.
But someone with a CAC and the will to do it could easily dig a ditch from Cullowhee to the Carnahan Ditch that some people call the Skipanon.
Yeah, well, I'm aware of those people that there's a minority that call it a ditch because they have no historical reference or deny historical reference to the fact that it was viable.
So if I can just interject here. So can I get from you then a policy statement on how the county comprehensive plan can support these goals? So if I could get that from you by the next meeting, that would be great.
I bet he could pull it out of his head just right now.
I could, but I won't.
But it won't stick in my head.
I'll follow your directions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anything else on this page?
Are we at the end of this page?
We are. We're moving on to policy 3, which actually starts on the next page, with where municipalities and water districts have identified possible conflicts.
On that.
on the question that Dionisio is deferring to a later written statement, I'll suggest a policy of providing a natural waterway between Cullowhee Lake and the drainage canal below the lake that does not require fish ladder.
Okay. I
That'd
can't,
be great. No fish ladders.
Gail, is this something that will be in the minutes that I can resort? Go ahead.
I'm typing it as we speak. You can watch me up on the screen, but if Mr. Strickland could please repeat his policy.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, I will try again, but I'll let you be the wordsmith. What I'm trying to say is we support a construction of a water course connecting Cullowhee Lake to the drainage canal, to the adjacent drainage canal, such that salmonids and lampreys can ascend it without the need of a fish ladder.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gail. And thank you, Robert, for doing some wordsmithing there. Okay, moving on to the next page then. Questions, comments?
In that first paragraph, it looks like it's an incomplete sentence, and so my question is, what in the what? Northwest Region Forest Practices Committee in the...
You're absolutely right. Can you see that, Gail?
No,
In the
can you please
what?
specify? I'm unclear where you're at.
Yeah, it starts at the top of the page where municipalities or water districts.
Okay.
It's just above policy 4. There it is. Policy 3, where municipalities or water districts have identified possible conflicts. And then if you go to the end of that, it says Northwest Region Forest Practices Committee in the...
Ta-da!
I'll have to check on that one.
So that got cut off.
Mm. Oh, we don't know then.
Okay.
Policy 4,
Mhm.
talking about dock facilities rather than individual piers or docks. Where are they talking about, and is it a zoning issue?
So it would be it wasn't looked at with regard to one specific area of the unincorporated county, but there are some zoning issues associated with it. We have some zoning districts that will allow individual piers, but others do allow these community dock facilities, which are more marina type facilities. So there's also a zoning issue involved.
So I hear what you're saying, Gail. This is more of a general statement than specific to any particular area.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And I believe the intent would have been to minimize impacts to the bottom of the waterway. Just the less pilings that you have to put in, and the better off it is generally.
Okay. Anybody, anything else?
The wilderness areas, policy 1. We just have a question, where?
So my understanding of this would be anywhere there is a federally recognized wilderness area.
Do any exist in Clatsop County?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Never
either.
heard of it.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that would be interesting to know the history on that. Anything else?
Policy 1, historic sites.
Uh-huh.
The county encourages the State Parks Division when developing a master program for Ecola Park to give proper recognition to the historical activities that have occurred there. And the Chinook Nation wants to make sure that
Something more than just calling it Indian Beach.
yeah, we'll get to that. I think I wrote it, didn't I? Right? Anyway, if they give the proper recognition, it must be the Clatsop Chinook people, the Chinook Indian Nation, specifically the Clatsop Chinook, the Clatsop tribe of the Chinook Nation would be the proper recognition to the historical activities that were done there, usually predominantly harvesting seafood
Okay.
and cedar and spruce. Definitely spruce.
Okay, thank you, Gail, for adding that. Anything else on this page?
Yeah. The policy number 4, the county encourages the Clatsop County Historical Society and the State Historic Preservation Office to place commemorative plaques at the site of Falls Pulp Mill and Shepard and Morris Sawmills. So we just want to know where in the heck these are.
I do not know, but
We tried looking them up, but there's no reference.
Yeah, we tried our best to find them, but we couldn't find them.
Like,
It's Shepard or Morris.
Okay, anything else?
the furniture.
Yeah.
That was it for that page.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, that's it for that page, except for it. Where are we going to talk about cultural areas policy number 1?
Yes, we'll talk about that next. I have a couple things on this page. Does anybody else have anything? Okay, I just had a question up on policy 5 under the previous. There's an asterisk there, and then under wilderness area policy 1, there's a double asterisk, and I'm not sure what those reference.
they typically, the code is set up very odd. Usually they reference that this section has been amended at some point. Instead of putting in the ordinance number, they've marked it with an asterisk.
Okay, okay, good to know. And the other things that I had were on historic sites policy 2, and it notices it under staff note, it says that that has been relocated. And also policy 5, this has been accomplished. Do we need to remove those from the plan then?
I would recommend they be removed, but it's really at the discretion of the committees if they want to leave them in to continue to encourage the continuation of it. But really, it's been done. There's really not a need for it, but it's whatever the committees decide.
Any ideas from the committee here or our public member? Okay.
Part of the purification project is eliminate the irrelevant.
I agree.
There you go.
Maria?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I guess I'm kind of six of one, half dozen of the other, in the sense of it would be nice to have some sort of through line between, okay, this was an original plan, this was completed, and this is now kind of no longer requires future action in that sense. But yeah, I like streamlining too. So I guess I could be swayed either way.
Okay. Well, it sounds like the general agreement is that we go ahead and recommend that these two policies be removed. And now moving on to cultural areas, which is my next page. And I'm sorry, Gail, you don't go by pages, so this does have to be confusing for you. But on
No, I'm sorry. I'll put in page numbers next time. That was my oversight.
okay. So on
We
the
accept
last
your apology.
two, any comments?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Speaking on behalf of the Chinook Indian Nation. I'll address the first policy, number 1, under cultural areas. I'm going to, or we're going to insist a change to include the Chinook Indian Nation. So it should read, the county will review land use activities that will affect known archaeological sites. If it is determined that a land use activity may affect the integrity of an archaeological site, the county shall consult with, and here's what we want, the Chinook Indian Nation, and then the historic or state historic preservation office on appropriate measures to preserve or protect the site and its contents.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
That is, if you want a little background, we can go back to across the river, immediately across the river, when blades from bulldozers were digging up skulls and bodies and bones of our ancestors to make way for a road. They wanted a straight road that was away from the river as part of the whatever celebration the state was planning for, or the area was planning for. And I can't tell you how upset our people were when our ancestors were removed like that. We don't want that to happen here in Clatsop County. We don't want to see it ever again. So we require that it's necessary that the Chinook Indian Nation be brought to the table to discuss anything as grievous as, potentially grievous as building a highway over a sensitive area that could contain remains of our ancestors. That's why we insist on having the Chinook Indian Nation be notified first, and then the State Historical Preservation Office notified secondly.
So Gail, you were about to say something.
I'm presuming that archaeological site
Oh,
also includes.
Robert, hold on. Gail was next, and then we'll come to you. Thank you.
Oh, good. Excuse me,
I
Gail.
can wait. I can wait.
Okay, go ahead, Robert.
I presume the term archaeological also relates to the period of post Anglo-American invaders. So it isn't just the Chinook Nation and their kin. It's also the invading forces in the early days. You know, like archaeological could be 100 years ago. That's kind of a question with a presumption. You know, that certainly archaeological covers first half of pre-statehood. You know, and kind of when you get into Morrison House, and lose behind pioneer dwellings. I guess those are still archaeological digs.
So,
So it is not just our Chinook neighbors. It's our invading cousins.
so if I may, Gail, just interject here real quick. I know that you're next. I guess we need a definition of archaeological. And I'm sure there is one.
Or artifacts.
Mhm.
Can I ask a question?
Maria?
Can we add cultural? So not only archaeological, but cultural importance, because it may not be, it may have other meaning that is not defined within the definition of archaeological.
We would
So expand it.
appreciate that.
Because it is a cultural, forget what this
It is.
cultural area, because if it's a cultural area, I'm just trying to expand the definition a little bit.
We could
So
also
it
step back.
definitely,
I'm sorry. We could also step back to that proposal about a hydroelectric dam below Youngs River Falls. That's a cultural, actually archaeological site for the Clatsop Chinook, because that was a harvesting area for the salmonids that came up to reproduce. And we know that fish spears of various sorts and arrows and heads and that kind of stuff were taken and removed from those sites, collected, and we know that people are still looking for artifacts that are in that watershed or that part of the watershed. Just as an example.
Yeah.
We would be opposed, obviously, to a hydro dam there because it is an archaeological cultural site.
Yes, thank you. So moving on, anything on policy 2?
Yes. Policy 2 starts out with the word Indian, Kerns, graves, and others. We would drop the word Indian and replace it with Chinook Indian Nation.
I think
We
it's
know
good.
of Kerns. Unfortunately, they're not in our possession or repossession at this time. We know of graves that are not, unfortunately, in our possession at this time. This is very sensitive to the Chinook people. Therefore, it is important that we identify them properly as belonging to the Chinook Indian Nation.
So along the same lines as policy 1, wouldn't you want where it says shall be preserved intact until a plan for their evacuation or reinternment has been developed by, wouldn't you want the Chinook Nation in that as well?
Oh yeah, they would be first, and then
Part of the NAPRA.
it'd be part of NAGPRA. If you're not familiar with NAGPRA, that is the Native American repatriation, grave and repatriation federal mandate. So, yeah.
Okay.
We fall under, it would fall under NAGPRA.
Okay.
That's so.
Well, we've gotten
Yeah,
to the
thank you, Gail, for pointing that omission, that putting that before and in the end there. Thank you.
Yeah, that was Maria.
okay. we've come to the end of our review of Goal 5. My understanding, however, Gail, is that if something else comes up in between now and the next meeting, that we can revisit that. Is that correct?
Yes, we have 3 months scheduled to discuss Goal 5 on our schedule. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunity over the next 2 meetings to continue your discussion.
I have a few words that came not from these sheets, and they obviously relate, and I don't know where to put them. Having to do with wildlife corridors, habitat remnants, buffer zones, complex woodlands, scenic views. You know, these all are pieces to be protected, but under what sentence, paragraph? I don't know. You know, these weren't pulled from this, so you won't do a search and replace.
So repeat those again, Robert. Wildlife corridor, and what else?
I will do that. There aren't that many of them. Wildlife corridors, habitat remnants, and buffer zones, complex woodlands, scenic views.
And so what you're asking is that we talk about this in the future.
These are items that should be in our purview, and they may go beyond what the phraseologies that were there 20 years ago.
Right. So Gail, does discussion of this fall under Goal 5?
Absolutely, yeah. And Goal 5 does have a section that deals with scenic areas, and that would be easy to incorporate it in it. And it's not called out specifically under the policies. We also have one called wilderness areas where some of the wildlife habitat may fit in well. But if Mr. Strickland has some suggested policy language, you can either discuss it.
I think our beloved wordsmith and director can do it better than I. You know, I think the concept of complex woodlands is, you know, it can refer to simply a forgotten tax lot, you know, it's just plucked off somewhere that has environmental value. And I hesitate to use the word environmental in this day and age.
Would that be a complex woodland or would that be a habitat remnant?
They are, as you know, clearly interrelated. You know, a habitat remnant wouldn't necessarily be a complex woodland, but usually a complex woodland often is a habitat remnant. You know, something that Shepard knows exists, and county policy is to get rid of any of these useless little disconnected pieces. And I'm suggesting we value those little isolated pieces that are not will never be labeled county parks, and will never be designed to for humanity to traipse there.
And could you explain what exactly a complex woodland would be?
Yep, you'd know it if you saw it. You'd trip over something, it doesn't look like a groomed Shively Park. It would be where you have multiple species of both flora and fauna, and it can be as small as 5,000 square feet, but you're still going to have salamanders and snakes and frogs anytime you turn over a log. And generally things of no economic value. No logs for anybody's boyfriend to go cut down.
Well, thank you, Robert.
You know, they would be part of those, you know, where the county owns several hundred scattered tax lots. You know, when you look at a county web map of properties that are owned by Clatsop County, and they're all over Helen. So many of these likely are complex woodlands of very little value. Period.
Thank you, Robert. I think those were really valuable comments. We've kind of been doing public comment and input all along. Thank you so much, Devin. That was really useful.
And is Dionisio currently a member of this distinguished advisory group, or is he still floating on the periphery?
This is not the periphery. He is our esteemed public commenter and a valuable addition to our information.
Is he one of our number, or is he in a separate category as member of public? You know, did he ever get appointed?
I don't believe he has, but I think he has a lot more value as he is, and he can.
Mary,
yeah.
Mary, yeah. Devin was appointed as the primary member, and Mr. Donabing was appointed as the alternate. So they are both members of the committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Sorry, we're sharing one computer.
Yeah. Sharing one computer. A lot of sharing. Can I ask, since I got here a little late, there was just a couple of concerns under the energy resources policy. Was anything discussed about policy number 2 and policy number 3?
I don't have any notes on that. Did you have comments?
Yeah, the Chinook Nation would not want a low-head hydro project anywhere. We would prefer wind generation, solar, and even wave technology that looks very promising.
Where are you? What page are we on? Or
Energy sources.
energy sources? Energy sources. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I'm not sure how we would change the policy wording on that.
I know in the county, other than Youngs River Falls, there's no other. I know we have already low-head dams for water, for Warrington. We just don't it just isn't feasible to impede Salmonid progress by accepting low-head hydro projects in Clatsop County.
So if I'm hearing you, you're saying that we want to change this to where the county relies on something else to govern, or we just want to come out as opposing these projects?
Low-head hydro projects, yeah. In place of them, we have solar, we have wind, and we have wave generation for resources for energy. And of course, I remember a past discussion about reusing woodland waste for regenerating power, steam. So there are other resources that would not severely impact our Salmonid resources for generating electricity or energy.
So what I'm hearing is that you're looking for a county policy, or we're recommending changes to the county policy to
Can I make a suggestion?
identify low-head hydro projects as last resort or something like that. Go ahead, Maria.
Or
A
disallow.
prioritization, a reprioritization of energy sources towards solar, wind, and wave generation. Therefore, making the hydro projects an issue of last resort.
Or disallow it if not prohibited. Basically,
Yeah.
I'm hearing disallow low-head hydro as a technology.
For energy. Yeah, I don't know enough about that to have an opinion.
It just means you don't need a big dam to generate it. You can have your 2-foot pond to generate electricity, and it's done all around the world. But it also disrupts all the little waterways.
Correct. Thank you, Robert.
That's where I'm coming from is I hesitate to take it totally off the table because all of the other energy sources that you're recommending, they have their own issues as well. And I just want to leave our options open, but have it on there, but as the last is my thought. I like the idea of reprioritize.
I at least would, these were what, 20, 30 years ago, whatever. I would at least, we're now well beyond those historical times, at least put under recommended changes. These ideas of they're feasible. They're, except for the wave generation, it's still going on, the technology of it. But the first two are definitely in play. And they should be
waves and tides.
Recommended changes, at least.
I think that's an important point. I think having this open enough so that we can adapt to new technologies such that are not quite established or not at least more commercially viable currently, and therefore reinforcing how, again, the hydro projects, it's not a good use of resources or because of the strain it puts on it. So perhaps we can word it such that I guess I'm kind of stuck on the prioritization, but allow for identifying the greatest beneficiary with the minimum amount of impact. That's how things would be. That's how the prioritization would be identified.
When you cut off stream flow, I think we have enough other places in our plan here that we don't allow stream flow to be reduced to the point where it does damage. And I'm separating this from tide and waves and wind. Yes, I realize there are problems with the wind, but I think when you get to obstructing the flow of streams, that it's a known damaging thing, that whether you make it 10th on the list or 7th, it still is known to harm little critters that are trying to swim in the stream.
And right now we're trying to eliminate dams.
Mhm. Yeah, and the current societal impacts now are trying to get rid of low head and high head projects that have been in place for over 100 plus years all over America. We've seen a lot of good progress in the return with the Elwha drainage. The Callum tribe really appreciates having that all restored after removing the 2 insidious dams that were on there from 100 years ago.
You know, the Pizza Palace down in Seaside, just the people who had the guts to remove that and the impact it made to salmon streams just by taking off the stupid tide gate. And what a huge amount of courage that took. You know, Tim Josie is right wing, but darn it, it took a lot of courage for him to say, take it off. He had more environmental impact than any of his era in politics along the North Coast as far as salmonids.
So Gail, I saw on the screen there that you added our comments, and I think that looks good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, did you also talk about policy 3?
Yeah, I just rereading it, I guess. Well, yeah, I guess the whole goal number 5 would overshadow any of those developments. Rereading it. Am I correct on that?
Yes, that's correct. That's state administrative rules.
Yeah. Okay. I only had one other question. Was there any discussion about rejuvenating the flow of the creek from Sunset Lake, or is it Neocoxy Lake, to its source there on the Neawana? Is there any discussion about rehabilitating that waterway resource under wetlands policy or natural resources or whatever?
I don't recall a discussion on that.
There has been over time a lot of discussion about it, and it certainly was something that the Camp Arlia defended its need for a parade ground, which happens to go right in the course of the Neocoxy, which is why in the winter you see ducks and geese parading there. So it has been talked about. It's something that's obvious when you look at a map, that and people are still alive recall, and I mean Anglos, when they used to be able to go from along the Neocoxy all the way from Camp Arlia area down to the Neawana estuary. You know, so yes, it is still there. Yes, it could be done. You might have to count on the director wordsmithing it so it doesn't irritate the federal government and their operation, where we agreed to not stand in the way of boom boom at Camp Arlea.
So what I'm hearing is you would like to see a county policy that would encourage reinstatement of that natural waterway.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. That was a significant resource for the Clatsop Chinook. Definitely a resource.
It would help the health of Sunset Lake or Neocoxie Lake to have some flushing occur.
Oh, definitely. It
So-
would require the removal of the Asian carp that's on the southern end of that lake that's really decimated it. That the flow really needs to be reintroduced or reestablished so that the salmonids, especially the sea run cutthroat and steelhead, that would utilize that lowland area, most possibly even the Chinook, or not Chinook, but Cobra.
Yeah. So what
there
I'm
has
hearing,
been creeping fill along there. There's been creeping fill all along that waterway from Sunset Lake, Neocoxie Lake to the Neawanna estuary. It is worse now than it was 10 years ago.
so what I'm hearing, you would like to see county policy that would encourage the
Support.
reinstatement of that waterway. Whoops.
Yeah, as a child, when I was with my parents there on the lower portion of Neawanna and Neocoxie, we would have the opportunity to harvest herring, and it used to be a staple that came into the Nicanicum River watershed, but spread it out to Neocoxie and other freshwater resources, especially the little one there at Neocoxie. And it was safe for us to harvest there because while the creek was substantial, I mean, it had a good flow at the time before development. We had the good fortune to do that. Of course, that is all now extinct.
In your old age, there were still very stinky quantities, like 100,000 dead anchovies that had run up the Neawanna. In other words, I don't know if it was in the last 10 years, 10 years ago, 8 years ago.
I live on the Neawanna and I can tell you it's happened several times. So yes, it's very stinky. I hate to say this. I thought I had enough battery, but I'm getting very low. And I don't know what to do.
Send us home.
Yeah.
I guess is there anything else that you want to bring up?
No, I covered everything that we ran over.
So we will meet again second Thursday. Again, Gail will let us know on what medium, whether this one, GoToMeeting, or something else. 2 o'clock. Anything else?
We're already in July.
Yeah. Oh, this will be in August?
Yes.
Yes, the next meeting will be August 13th.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
August 13th.
13th? Okay.
2 o'clock.
Got it.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I think that we had a really useful and productive meeting. Nice, Robert. Thank you so much, Gail, for all of your help and guidance. Really appreciate it. Okay.
Mossy.
Bye-bye.